So we're going to put our discussion of one-to-one relationships into use as we look at an idea of uploading documents related to a doctor. You know, it could be a copy of their diploma, some certification, maybe even letters of accommodation, anything like that that we want to be able to upload in relation to a given doctor, right? So we're going to add some classes first of all. So let me come to models. I'm going to right click, we'll add a class here. I'm going to call it file content. Now, I'm even taking the one-to-one to an extra level, having basically a one-to-one-to-one, right? I'm going to offload the file content itself from the uploaded file entity. I'll talk more about why I would do that in just a moment. I'll get them both in place, and that'll make more sense to understand what it is I'm talking about here. Oh, that's what I get for talking and copying at the same time. Okay. So let me get the uploaded file model in place as well. So I'll add another class here for my uploaded file. Okay. So here's a one-to-one. Okay, the uploaded file has its own integer identity, primary key, and ID, right? We'll have a nullable string for the file name, a nullable string for the MIME type, and a nullable object here, a file content object. So that huge byte array of data to store the actual content of the file, we might not always need it. Maybe I just need a list of what files there are, right? So I can access the file name, optionally even the MIME type to know what type of file it is. And I can just pull this from the database without getting all that bulky content itself. Or I can do a .include and include the file content with it. So the file content object then is the dependent object in this case, right? So notice our file content ID, it acts as the key as well as the foreign key for our uploaded file object. Right? And what does it contain? Just our byte array, okay? The huge amount of data is stored digitally as a byte array. That's the actual content, okay, of the actual object itself. So that allows us to offload the bulk, okay, into this dependent entity associated back to the uploaded file. All right, that's good. Now, how do we relate this to a doctor? Okay. Well, what I can do is I'll make another class yet again. I'm going to add another class. I'm going to call it my doctor document. And the trick here is it's going to inherit from uploaded file. Now, it's going to have the properties so that I can relate this uploaded file to the specific doctor whose document it is. How do I do that? Well, I just add basically an integer here, a foreign key for the doctor, right? Public int doctor ID, okay, and my nullable doctor object. This is exactly how on the child of a one-to-many relationship I would have it set up, right? Okay. So my doctor document object is an uploaded file, but it relates back to a specific doctor. Now, I can load the doctor in if I want to include it, or I don't need to have that. The doctor ID allows for the referential integrity relationship. And you might say, well, that's all good for the doctor. What if I also want to be able to relate back to patients? Well, no problem. If I want to keep track of files related to a patient, let me add another class for, guess what? Patient document. Pretty logical what's going to go in here. There you go. It inherits from uploaded file, our patient ID to relate back as a foreign key relating to the actual ID of the patient, the nullable patient object, and away we go, right? Okay, now, you know what? For now, to keep it focused, I've got this here, but I'm not actually going to really use it just yet, right? but you know, it's here, so we might down the road decide, you know what, we need documents related to a patient as well, and it will be easy to roll that into the system. Okay. Now we're going to need a new migration, but before we do that, we're going to add a collection of doctor document to the doctor. So remember, we had a one-to-one between the uploaded file and the file content. Do we want a one-to-one between doctor and doctor document? Good question. Well, let's think about it. Will we only ever have one document for a doctor? No. We'll probably have multiple documents, right? So in that case, we won't just have a single doctor document, we will have a I collection, right? So I can add it down here with these other I collections, okay? I'm going to give it a display name of just documents, right? But it's an I collection of doctor document objects called doctor documents, okay? So it's a one-to-many, that a doctor might have many documents. Each doctor document, though, is really an uploaded file, right, which has a separate or a subordinate file content object that may or may not be included. Sound confusing? Hopefully not. But it's a new concept for us, so don't forget we have to do this. We have to add some work in our DB context, right? So let's go there next. So here are all of our other DB sets. So I'm going to need two, okay? I'm going to need a DB set of uploaded file objects, okay? Now eventually, as we know, uploaded files might be doctor documents. They could be patient documents, maybe other documents as well, right? So I'll have my separate doctor documents, which of course are uploaded files. But this allows me to separately just go directly in to all the uploaded files, whether they're a doctor document or not, right? That's why I'm going to create this separate DB set. Now obviously I need a migration for all this change that we've done. So let me just save everything. Open my common commands, okay? I'm going to add a migration here. I'll copy that, come down to my package manager console. We'll try to add migration for docs, doctor documents. And we'll see if we get away with it. If we don't get any red or warnings, then probably I'm okay. Nope, looks like we're okay. All right, so you see we're creating a new table for uploaded files. We have our file content table as well, and it just has basically our byte array, our blob, okay, and our file content ID, okay, which acts as both primary and foreign key, right? Okay, and the down is just to drop it. There's something I wanted to point out here. Look at this. In the uploaded files table, we didn't create a property called discriminator. It's a text property. You'll see later on if you look in the data, if you go and look in the uploaded files table inside the database, you'll see values, text values here for the discriminator. Guess what they will be? Doctor, right? Or if we get around to actually adding patient documents, you'll see patient then, right? The discriminator will be the name of basically the parent class for the uploaded file, right? Doctor, patient, whatever. Okay. Just thought I'd point that out because that's kind of interesting. We'll go back and we'll look in the data later on to actually see that. Okay. Now you might say, wait a second, come back here. Don't we usually have to think about, you know, cascade delete, which ones delete and which don't? Well, you know what? We have nothing to do. The default cascade delete is what we want for all the relationships that we have just added. Okay. All right, so that's it. We've got the back end ready to go. So I'm just going to close all my tabs. Now we're going to come to the front end, right? So remember, we're focusing right now on doctor documents. So what we're going to do, we're going to do some work in the doctor controller, first of all. Now this is a little bit like what we did when we dealt with other many-to-manys and things like that. Let me come to controllers, come to doctor. We're going to add a couple of sort of helper methods here, right? One will be public, okay? And then I'm going to have a private method as well. So let me go Control MO, shrink everything down. Might even close this to give more screen real estate here, right? So I'm going to make a public method here that I can use to download a file. Now I'm going to share with you the fact this obviously is something that we could, okay, since it's public, I'm going to put it here before I start the private ones, right? This is something that instead, right, we could put into sort of a shared file download service instead of having it right in the controller, right? But I want to keep things simple because we're only just learning, and there's a lot of concepts you're taking in all at once here. So, you know, later on, if I'm going to, in my patients controller, be able to download, you know, patients related to the, or documents related to the patient, I might end up having the exact same code repeated there, which repeated code is never a good thing, which is why eventually you'd probably put it into some sort of a shared service that you could inject into any controller that needs to be able to download. But for now, let's just keep it simple. Okay, so I simply have an asynchronous task here. Notice that what we return is a file content result. Okay, I'm making the action name simply download, and we pass the ID. The ID of what? The ID of the uploaded file, right? So we go to the uploaded files. Notice I'm including the file content so we can fully form the file, right? First or default async, and away we go. And that gets us the file. Okay, it's an uploaded file with the content loaded, right? Now just a quick check to make sure we actually have it, that the content isn't null and we've got a MIME type. Okay, if if that's the case, we'll just basically return an empty file, right? Just so we don't get any nulls or anything like that. But otherwise, as long as we actually have a file, this is all we do. We just return file. And look at the arguments here, okay? The byte array is the file contents, okay? When we say return file, that's what we need, the file contents, then the content type, which is our MIME type, and then a file download name, which will use the file name of the actual file itself. And that's it. So it's a simple way to download the file. We can give a link, they can click it, we can download the file, and away you go. All right, so that one has to be public, so we can just call for it to download. All right, now our next one is a private method that we're going to use to actually handle the upload, right? So let me just get my code in place. It's not too much. Surprisingly, it doesn't take all that much. So this one's private, right? So private async task, add documents. So we're adding documents to a doctor, right? So we pass our doctor object in, and our list of iForm file objects called the files, right? Now, from our PowerPoint discussion, you can probably guess that in the UI itself, in the view, I will have a file input, right, with multiple set to multiple, and it's going to be called the files, right? So it'll have my collection of iForm file objects. So then a quick check, do I actually have a doctor and do I have files to work with? If not, then I just return. Nothing else to do, right? Otherwise, I use a for each loop, go through each file, I'm just going to call it F for short, in the files, right? Now checking each one that it isn't null, right? I can go to my file, the individual F here, file here, get the content type as my MIME type, okay? I can use path, get file name, and that returns me the file name no matter what the path was, whether it was in C:/ this, that, or the other thing, documents, etc., doesn't matter, we just want the file name. And then the file length I can get from the iForm file object and just get the length. Okay. Now we could filter for MIME types if we want to allow certain types of files, but right now I'm allowing them to upload any kind of file stored on the computer, right? I do want to check that we actually do have a file though, right? So I can check that the file name isn't blank and that the file length is greater than 0, right? Just to make sure we actually have a file to work with. Then I just create my memory stream, okay? And I use it, I copy asynchronously to the memory stream from my iForm file, right? And then coming down here, I will new up a doctor document object, grabbing the MIME type, the file name, and for the content, I just go to my memory stream that I built up here, .toArray, and that will generate, okay, a byte array for the content itself, right? So that file content property inside my doctor document, okay, will be a new file content object containing the byte array itself. I just go to my doctor, my collection of doctor documents, and add my document. By the way, in order to use .add, this can't be null, which is why I initialized it to an empty hash set, right? And then I can use .add. And that makes it simple. So I'll just add all the documents that were uploaded to the doctor object itself. Okay? And so that's all there is to it. So we have to do some work in the view. Well, we aren't quite done in the controller, but we have to do some work in the view. So let's go there. I can go to the doctor create view, for example. Coming down here, views, doctor. Let's start in the create view. Now, one of the first things, and this I'm going to tell you right now, is the most common boo-boo the students make when they're going to implement this. They forget this one critical step. Our opening form tag method, okay, action is create, and they forget to come in here and add this little bit of code, our enclosure type, multi-part form data. If you don't have that, everything else looks perfect and it seems to work, but when you go to the controller, you never get any data, right, for the actual file itself. It's because they forgot this, okay? So don't forget that. And then we're going to add here, I'm going to put it right under last name. I'll add a little div, a form group here for my input type equals file. Okay. All right. It'll say upload documents. Okay. And inside this form group, I have input type is file. Name is the files, and note multiple equals multiple. So it will be, will allow the user to have a browse dialog box that can go and browse and select multiple files at once, right? Okay, so then back to the controller. Let's come up now to the create process. That's where we're working, right? So here in the create post, there I have my selected options, okay? So right after that, I can add another parameter here. Okay, my list of iForm file objects called the files. Now notice, let me emphasize again, this name, the files, must match, okay, the name I've given here, the name property of my input type equals file, right? So that gives me my collection of files, my iForm file objects. All right. Then all I have to do here, after I check that the model was valid, I will just call asynchronously, I'll await my add document. I pass my doctor, okay, when we built our doctor already, I pass the collection of files, and that is before I actually add the doctor to the context. There we go. I'll actually add the documents in to the doctor first, and so of course, if I didn't already have it, I would have to make sure I have a catch here for my retry limit exception, because once again I'm doing something that makes the doctor a hierarchical object. So Entity Framework Core is going to write all these beautifully complex transactions for me in the database to make sure that everything gets saved, and so I need to have my retry limit exception in place. All right, now what about edit? Okay, oh, by the way, sorry, let's go to the edit view, add my same enclosure type. Oh, as well, I want to make sure the method is post. And that the enclosure type is multi-part form data. All right. Good practice to put method as post here as well. Okay. And we're going to have our input control as well, right? So I'll put that in here. My form group, okay, input type is file, called the files, multiple. Now, the only thing that's different between this code and what I put in create is I'm saying upload additional documents, right? So we can come in and edit and add additional documents if that's what we want to do. But I also want to give them some idea of what documents are there already, right? So it's similar to the kind of code we've done before whenever we have child collections. I'm going to throw this little div right above it, right? Okay, same kind of thing we've done, okay? We're going to come in here. I'm going to list the current documents, right? So we'll go to my model the doctor documents, of course, we have to make sure that we go back to the controller and make sure we're including everything we need to when we prepare information to show on the screen. Okay, I'll get my count. Okay, I'll go get the first one. Maybe there's only one. Okay, and so on and so forth. I'll use my bootstrap collapse. Right? Now, I'm not going to show the name of the first one. I'll just say current documents, and my badge will show how many there are. I can expand the link and see the list of all the documents. But look at this. As I list each document name on the screen, I can make it a link. I'll make it an ASP action link. The action is download. So it'll call my download action we added to the controller. The route ID will be the ID of the iForm file, right? Okay, because we're going through each doctor document. Okay, and then also showing the file name. So it'll be a link you can click on to download the document itself. And that will give you multi-purpose here. We're seeing a list of all the documents that are there, plus we can click on them to download them directly. And of course, right below, we can add additional documents if that's what we want to do. All right, so as I said, we have to go back to the controller again, okay? And in the doctor controller, we didn't have to worry about it in the create because, you know, we're just creating basically an empty doctor, right? Okay, so that's all we need. We don't need to, because the doctor already is set up to have an empty collection of doctor documents, okay, we're set. But down here, when it comes to the edit process, we have to do a bit more work. So even in the get, we have to add our include, right? To make sure when we go and get the doctor to update, we include our doctor documents, just like we include the specialties, right? So we can show that information on the screen. Okay. Now, in the post, right? Coming down here, the edit post. Once more, we will need our other parameter, our additional parameter for the files, our list of iForm files. Okay. Now, if it bothers you to scroll left and right, you can always do that. Okay. So we have the ID, our selected options, and my list of iForm file objects called the files. Right. Now, once more, with our link query where we go and get the doctor to update, make sure we do our dot include so the current documents are there already as well. Okay, but before we save changes, we want to add our call to add documents, right? So down here, before we save changes, we'll add documents to our doctor to update. So if they've decided to add some additional files, we can do that here. All right. So believe it or not, that's it for the edit and the create views and the edit and create actions in our controller. But we also probably want to show information about the doctor. So let's go to the index next. So on the index, we're going to add a couple things. Okay. Let me come back to the controller first before I forget to. Coming right up to the index action. Once more, we need our include so that when we show the doctor, we have the documents included, right? Now notice we're just getting the doctor documents, but they don't have the file content. They don't have that huge amount of data in the byte array because we didn't do a dot then include, right? If we did, then we would actually have all the content there, but we don't want that. We just really want a list of the file names, right? And that's the main thing we're after here. Okay. So getting back to the actual view itself, I think we have room on the screen here, so I'm going to add yet another column. I could do it before or after the specialty. It doesn't really matter. Maybe I'll do it after the specialties. Okay. Another TH tag pair, display name for my doctor documents. And then I'll do a matching table data tag pair with similar code to what we've done before when we have collections. Right. Again, though, the thing is here we have our collapse, but each link, okay, or sorry, each file name is also a link to download the actual file, right? Okay, good. Almost there, but you know, two views we haven't touched yet are the details and delete. Of course, we probably want to show information about the related documents that have been uploaded in each of them as well, right? So we'll work on the views, but don't forget, we also have to make sure we include the data in the actual controller actions. So here I'll come details. Doesn't matter where I put it, I might as well just put it right at the beginning here. There's my include for doctor documents in details, coming way down to the deletes. Since it wanted to help me, I might as well let it, right? Okay, there it is. So I have my doctor documents included everywhere, right? So coming back to the views, details and or delete, right? I just basically put the exact same code in both. Another DT-DD pair, which, I don't know, maybe I'll put it above doctor specialties. But it's very much the same type of code as we've done before. Go above doctor specialties. The main difference, again, is we go through our for each loop here. Each file name is a link to download it. Okay, now, I have some notes in the bottom line copy-paste file here. I just want to bring over onto the screen, right? Obviously, we don't have any way to remove documents yet. We can only upload them, right? We can download them back down, but say we want to delete a document. So we're going to need to go and create a controller with views for doctor documents, right? The index should be able to filter documents by doctor. We should be able to delete documents. Now for edit, though, with this specialized controller, well, no, we don't need that, right? At this point, if we need to edit other than the file name, that's all we require, right? But we don't need to edit the content. So the edit functionality in this doctor document controller would only be to actually edit the file names, right? And we don't need to create, okay? But we would need to be able to delete. All right, so, but we'll leave that separate. We're just gonna worry about getting them uploaded and downloaded for now. So let me actually run the application. And here we are, up and running. So I go to doctors. Now there's no documents here, but if I edit, there we go. Current documents, none. Upload additional documents, no files chosen. I can choose files. So let me go into my downloads here. I'll upload 2 different files because I do have, oh, no, I don't want all those. I'll just control click to pick 2 different files. Click open, notice it shows 2 files. Click save, and there we are. I have 2 documents. I can click their links, and it offers to download it, right? Okay. Same with the create process. Okay, I could upload it if I'm going to make a new doctor. Choose a file here. I'll choose that PowerPoint file. So it shows the name if it only is 1 file, right? And there we go. So I'm probably the last doctor here. Yep, and there's my PowerPoint. I can click to download. Now notice I can go to details, okay? Let me go back to the doctor list. Let me go back to the first page, okay? Same with delete, right? So I can expand my documents here. My list of, shows in my bullet how many there are, okay? And of course, same thing on details. I have my expandable list, and I can click each one and download it. And there we are. All right, so that's all the functionality we're going to add in this step. I'm going to leave it up to you to think about creating a doctor documents controller yourself. Bada bing, have fun.